oftentimes if you're feeling frustrated or you're like, oh, I just need to get out of this place, it's easy to be acting on the emotion but not actually determine what is it that's making me feel this way. Once you can pinpoint what that is, that helps you to determine, do I need to shift? Do I need to pivot? Do I need to leave completely?
Is it a drop or is it a springboard into something better? Am I starting again or am I starting from experience? In most cases, I'm starting from experience.
Welcome, Shelly and Janine, to PeopleFirst, the Young Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, and today we're going to be discussing squiggly career paths and what it is to make a career change. For our listeners, I'm joined by Janine Esbrand, a leadership development coach and the host of the Career Changemaker podcast, and my friend, Shelly Larsen-McHugh, social impact and employee engagement lead at ManpowerGroup. I am so excited to have you both on the podcast. So, Janine, I'm going to come to you first. Would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and just a bit of your story?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for having me. So I will say that I've had a bit of a squiggly journey to where I am right now. I started off my career as a lawyer. I trained and qualified as a corporate lawyer and I worked in private practice for a while, and then I moved in-house and did various roles within the law. And alongside my legal career, I decided that I wanted to pursue coaching after going on a mission trip and feeling like I wanted to do something to impact people on more of a personal level. I came across coaching. I realised there's this whole industry where you can help people make a difference. And so I started coaching on the side and helping people to navigate their career journeys. And over time, I've built my practice where I coach. I also consult for companies and speak on stages. And I'm really passionate about people development, career development, and just love helping people to reach that next level in their careers and fulfill their potential.
That was beautifully put, absolutely beautifully put. Something we ask actually all of our guests, Janine, is what was your very first job before being a lawyer? Like, I mean, talk to me about when you were 16,
Yes, my first job, I worked in like a cafe, a real greasy spoon cafe, and I was terrible at it. I dropped plates all of the time. And I remember when I finally could leave and go and work in retail, because that felt like a better option for me. I told the manager that I was leaving and his response was, good, because you're rubbish at this job. So yeah, that was my first job.
Love that. And Shelly, do you want to, I obviously know you quite well.
Yes.
Myself and Shelly have worked together for the listeners for coming up to 3 years now. But would you mind giving the listeners a little bit of your background and sort of maybe your journey through ManpowerGroup?
Yeah, so I went to uni, did a degree in sport and psychology. Then I stayed on because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I stayed on and did a master's in sociology of sport. And then my granny passed, so I moved back home and I got a job at Manpower. So I started in operations, but I always had this real desire, similar to you in terms of learning and development and helping people. So I moved into the P&C team, so people and culture team. And then from there, learning specialist, then it was COVID hit. So then I applied to be a Kickstart program manager. Then the success of that program that we created, I then moved into an early careers program manager, and then now social impact and employee engagement lead. So yeah, there's been some intentional moves and then some organic moves in there as well.
And we're going to talk about squiggly careers today. It's already been thrown about a couple of times in this conversation, but it's a term coined by the founders of Amazing If, and I think it's obvious that you are both champions of this squiggly career path, but I would love to know, when you were growing up, did you imagine that your career would take the same shape that it has now? I'm going to come to you first, Janine.
Absolutely not. I didn't even know that what I'm doing now was a thing. When I was growing up, I was very much focused on becoming a lawyer. When I was younger, probably around the age of 8 or so, I was quite argumentative, my mum would say. I would say I just had opinions.
And we would have got on really well.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember there's one particular day where I was kind of going back and forth with her. She was saying something and I was like, yes, but mum. And she kind of, in her frustration, was like, you should be a lawyer. You have an answer for everything. And it was at that point she kind of planted the seed. Yeah. And then as I was growing up, I used to watch Ally McBeal and Law and Order and all of those programs that made being a lawyer looked very glamorous. So I was just sold on that. I was very focused. I want to be a lawyer and that's all I want to do. And then it's only when I arrived at being a lawyer that I realised that this doesn't feel like how it looked on TV. It's very different. And then realised as I got older that there's options and you don't just have to stick to the one thing that you decided when you're 8 years old and you don't really know what the world's about. And that you can do multiple things. So for a while I was a lawyer and a coach at the same time for a number of years. And I've really enjoyed kind of building out a portfolio career and figuring out what I like and how I can blend the different aspects of my skill set.
Yeah. Is there anything there from what Janine said that resonates with you, Shelly?
Everything.
Okay.
I grew up proper working class. So when you say about first jobs, I lied once because I don't think I felt comfortable in saying it. But my very first job, I think, was picking peas in a field.
That's so crazy
so
that you came
so
from that
working
tonight.
class. And we're proper working class. Well, before that, nicking coal down pit, like that's what you used to do. But I just always remember wanting different to what my life was, but not knowing what that was and also how to get there. And I always remember I used to draw me in almost like a sports kit because I'm going to be a PE teacher in my head. I had a house, children in the picture, and a purple Land Rover. I don't know why, but there's a purple Land Rover in there. But I knew I wanted different, but I just didn't know what that was. And then I went to uni thinking I was going to go to be a PE teacher. Terrible at maths, even though they shouldn't be linked, but they are. And yeah, that almost, it stopped me from going down that road. And I'm so glad because that's not me. But I would have just stayed on that path.
You do give PE teacher energy, I think. I could definitely see you as a great PE teacher. I would not write or forge notes out of cross country if Shelly was taking it.
I was like...
And I really relate to both of what you have said, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but the same thing went to uni, I did my master's. I think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I thought like people like me don't do that sort of stuff. You know, I was first generation to go to uni, definitely first generation to get masters. But I realised that similar to helping people, I just don't think you can teach the desire to work or want to work, and that was something that I really did see amongst a lot of unemployment. And bringing it back, I am open to the idea of having a squiggly career because I want to gain as much experience as I physically can get to better myself, if that makes sense. So I guess,
but it gives you a drive as well though, doesn't it? I think like for me, from being in a working class environment and a socially deprived environment, it gives me a grit, and it's took me years to get to this point, and I'm 42, but I can walk in the same path as those that are more privileged than me and belong there. And it's took me years, and I still work on it now, but it's took me years to get to that point where I can do that.
I definitely think there's a level of drive. I remember when I was about 15, the careers advisor asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, and when I told her a lawyer, she was kind of like, you probably want to try something else because of your background, because of where you come from, and it's going to be too hard for you. And I don't remember her name, but that conversation is what led me to actually making sure that I made it happen, because I was like, you can't tell me what I can't do.
Argumentative.
That's exactly it. And I think everyone has one of those stories. My art teacher told me I would never work in advertising, you know. Here I am now. But it's just that I think those things, I actually really think that we need those experiences in life. I think we need to be the knockbacks and someone not seeing us to like make us see ourselves a little bit more and drive that forward.
Yeah.
Shelly, I want to come to you and just talk a little bit about the working mindset. I am not going to introduce it because I'm not going to do it in any way justice that you will. So I'd love for you to tell listeners about the working mindset, what it is in a nutshell, and how it came to be.
The Power Award winning working mindset.
The Power Award winning working mindset.
Just going to keep gloating on that for a while. The working mindset was, I guess, a brainchild a while ago during COVID, when I sat down with Georgie, my manager, and said, actually, we need to do more for young people. They're facing such a hit on COVID, mental health, mental wellness, all of that stuff. We need to support them. So we trialled it as a youth initiative, which was almost like a community of people that went through a mental fitness meets therapy meets mental like mindset and that community. So we talk about subjects through lived experience. So we dissect a subject like resilience through a lived experience, and it's so heartwarming, and it's such a lovely program to be on, and it gives you the tools to be a leader of self. And it's such a wonderful program to have in our business, and it's open now to everyone. So I'm really, really passionate about it. But one of the things that comes up on that program a lot, talking about Squiggly Careers, is the amount of people that come on the program and say, I should be at this stage in my career, I should be I have the dream car, the dream job, the kids, the house, or compare themselves to friends. And comparison, we know, is the thief of joy. But and I always question that should, and say, by whose measure? Because society's timeline isn't your timeline. So we really work with those cohorts to say, think about what you want out of your life, and think about what your purpose is, and connect to that. So it comes up so many times, and it's soul destroying when you can hear that, and you'll know that from coaching, I guess, as well.
Yeah, that's why I'm nodding. I'm like, everyone, it's like the shoulds, it's always the shoulds.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we can put aside the shoulds and really dig into what do you want, and who are you, and what's important to you, you often realise that there's a misalignment. And part of the reason why there's so many people that are unhappy in their roles or just feeling disconnected is because they're following the shoulds, and they haven't spent the time to really unpack, what do I actually want now? Because the other thing too is recognising that we move through seasons, and decisions that you make when you're 8 or you're 18, 10 years later, you're a very different person. And it's okay to kind of go back and say, what do I want now? It might not be the same, and that's okay, but you get to leverage everything that you've done in the past to help you move forward.
I don't want the same things as I wanted last week, let alone whenever I was 18, you know, like it's just, and do you know what? And I think that there's power in that too, you know? You did sort of cover it there, Janine, but have you seen these sort of similar like self-limiting beliefs in your work with the people that you work with, or even maybe some of the organisations that you work with?
Yeah, I think all the time. Either when people are thinking about making some kind of transition and they're trying to figure out what it is they want to do, and also when people they know what they want to do, but they're not quite sure how they get there, or if they can get there. So helping people to really assess what is reality, because oftentimes we can tell ourselves stories and accept them as if they're complete truth, and they're not always. And so a lot of the work that I do is helping people to really hone in on what they bring to the table and who they are, what their values are, what their strengths are, what's even important to them, and help them to build careers that come from that place. So for me, it's really about encouraging people to take an inside out approach versus an outside in. And the outside in is really when you're looking at what everyone else is saying you should do, what everyone else is doing, and allowing that to influence your decision making. I encourage people to take the time to figure out what are you about now, and then make decisions from that place.
And how do you know when you're in a role or you're in an organisation when it is time to pivot or when it's time to just leave?
When it doesn't serve your soul. I think pivoting and leaving are different. So pivoting for me is you're probably still aligned to the company values, but maybe you're feeling like you're not recognised as much, or you're not stretched as much, and all of those things. And leaving is where I think it's emotional. It's that Monday dread. It's not wanting to go into work or not aligning to the values. And I think sometimes I always think about it in almost like do I feel connected to the organisation? Do I feel like it's growing me in confidence or soul destroying? And do I feel committed and challenged? Not stressed, because that's different. Challenge is different to stress. Do I feel challenged in my role? And I think sometimes when we go into the emotional side, what's the cost and the consequence of not moving or pivoting career? And is that, because that's a hidden cost, isn't it? We don't see that, the stress coming on. We can feel it in our bodies, but that's sometimes the hidden cost is probably the loudest and most impactful cost for me.
Yeah. I like to say to people it's important to do an audit first and foremost, because oftentimes if you're feeling frustrated or you're like, oh, I just need to get out of this place, it's easy to be acting on the emotion but not actually determine what is it that's making me feel this way.
Sure.
It could be the environment, it could be the clients that you work with, it could be the role, it could be your colleagues. There's so many things that could be contributing to you not feeling like this is where you want to be. So once you can pinpoint what that is, that helps you to determine, do I need to shift? Do I need to pivot? Do I need to leave completely? Because sometimes you might be doing the role that's the right fit for you, but it's where you're doing it that's the problem. In which case, you probably need to leave. But if the role isn't right, but you like the environment and it's a good fit for you in terms of the culture and the company, then maybe it's about you going to work in a different department. So I think if you can take the time to really slow down, and one of the exercises I tell clients to do is every time you get that feeling of like, oh, I'm so frustrated, write it down, write what happened, who said what to you, what was the circumstance. So you can kind of like over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, just take a log, then be able to look back and say, okay, what is my actual issue with where I am? Because often we can want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, oh, I just need to leave. And then if you haven't assessed, you might realise that you move somewhere else and it's the role, and then you're still unhappy. So you have to do that first to make sure that the move you make is the right one.
The grass is greener where you water it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Some people are hesitant to change careers because they probably won't want to start maybe at like the bottom of the ladder again. I've heard this a couple of times thrown about. Is a drop always inevitable? And if so, how could we view it positively?
I don't think it is inevitable. The assumption is that if I move somewhere else, I'm going to have to work my way up from the bottom because I've done that this time.
Sure.
But what people miss is that the skill set that you have and the experience that you've gained can add value somewhere else.
Sure.
So if you understand how to position your experience, it can actually be a value add. So I've worked with clients who have been able to transition into completely different industries, different roles, and get a salary increase in the process or get a promotion in the process because they saw how what they've been doing can be helpful. And if you can bring a different perspective to an industry, it's actually really good. So if you understand the value of what you're bringing to the table, it doesn't have to be a step down. So I think it's about perspective and positioning when you're moving.
Definitely. Do you agree or do you have anything
Yeah,
to
no,
add?
absolutely agree. You feel like you got the same person on the podcast. I absolutely agree. I think some people can catastrophize and think, oh my God, I'm going to have to move, or, without doing that reflection. But the drop isn't always inevitable, and flip it as well. If you think you need to take that side step or that drop, flip and reverse it and say, is it a drop or is it a springboard into something better?
Yeah.
Because in most cases it could be, am I starting again or am I starting from experience? In most cases I'm starting from experience. So I'd always try, and I do this internally as well. I think as humans, we're quite messy in our human development. I try and flip my thinking a lot because I will always go to the negative and say, actually, no, let's go back over here and try and be disciplined in that.
Yeah, that's something I haven't mastered just yet. I rely a lot on the girls to play devil's advocate, to be honest with you. And a lot of my friends are really, really good at just being like, take a step back and have you thought about this sort of thing?
Yeah.
And I act in emotion often. Jesus, I've quit jobs on the spot before. Do you know what I mean? So I think as I've got older, I've just realised that there is a better way to do things, better attitude to have. There's steps that you can take before you spontaneously combust, But talking about transferable skills, it's something we touched upon. What transferable skills do you think have helped you both during your career?
I think one of my biggest, and it's took me a while to realise that this is my strength, because I would always go, why is it? But actually it is a strength. I'm going to tell you why it's a strength. Communication.
Yeah.
I think I am very good at communicating and amplifying my voice and the voices of others. So when I talked to you about, coming from a socially deprived background, there were years ago where I'd think I don't belong, and it'd hurt my heart. Because you think, well, I'm in this room and I don't belong in this room, and you get the anxiety and all of that and that imposter syndrome, where actually I do belong and you belong and actually if you don't have your voice, I'll find it for you. And I do a lot of coaching as well. So everything you're saying, I'm nodding away, because that's where the magic is amplifying voices. So I do that a lot, and I do a public speaking as well, which I want to just tell everyone's story. But I think I always keep it real. And the other thing I think that's helped me in my career is emotional intelligence. I've got the ability, I think, to read a room within a second. And I think when you can do that, and in coaching, look for what's not said, because that's where the power is, isn't it? What's not said, then I think that's helped me a lot.
Sure.
But often people don't see that they've got transferable skills. They just see it as it's transactional. I'm going to tell you my job description. And actually it's not that.
Yes. I resonate with everything you just said. I think the other thing I would say is the people skills and being able to build rapport with people.
100%.
So, like when I was a lawyer, I wasn't the best on the technical side. Like that wasn't where I thrived, but I was a corporate lawyer. So as a corporate lawyer, you need to be able to liaise with different departments to bring together information so that you can help a company buy or sell a company, right? And I would be the one who would get to know my colleagues in other departments, build relationship with them. So then when I needed stuff by a deadline, I would just call them. Yeah. And my colleagues, junior lawyers, they would be emailing and like, oh, they haven't emailed me back. I'm like, why don't you just call them or just go speak to them? They're like, oh, no, I wouldn't. I'm like, well, I'm getting my report done. I don't know about you. And so I didn't realise, because I was kind of young at that point, that I was doing that. And it's only now in reflection that I've done that in every different environment that I've been in. And at the end of the day, business is people, right? Like if you're navigating your way through the workplace, it's people all day long. If you are selling, whatever you're doing, if you can build relationships with people and if you can understand what other people are motivated by and you can be supportive and helpful, then that will stand you in good stead. So I think recognizing that there are skills that you need to do a job, but if you can think about the soft skills, as they say, that help you to be someone people want to work with, that you're easy to work with, that people want to connect with, that will help you to go far.
I could not agree, like hard exclamation mark on everything you just said. Like, I think you can't, unfortunately, teach people to be personable the same way as you can't teach the desire to work. And I really relate to like a lot of what you said there. I'm not the best at my job, and I'm confident in that, right? But I'm a really nice person, and I know I can generate enthusiasm around a cause, and I know I can get people to collaborate. And I've always had a second job since I started my career. I've always worked in a pub or in nightlife, and people come to the bar and you're just on the other side. You're literally serving by nature. So I think that's probably helped me advance my career more than any of the professional skills that I have, is actually just knowing how to speak to people, how to hold a conversation, how to be approachable. And I think what's helped me in my career, if I really think about it, has been I'm not going to try and be like too specific here to our work, but if you think about really senior people in a part of our business, I knew them personally. I'd worked with them on fun affinity network sort of projects, and when I actually came to work with them professionally, they knew me, they knew how I worked, they could communicate with me really easily because I didn't need to speak to them. Like there was a gap between me and these directors or these manager positions because they were my mates, really, So, and it's something I always say to people who maybe are less willing to be approachable or personable is, how can someone cross you if you know what colour their curtains are in their living room or what their niece's first name is? It's harder to do that, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
But it helps so much. Like you are so personable, and if you can bottle that up and gift it to everybody, what a wonderful world it would be. Because you are so personable, and I do think sometimes people go, oh my God, I can't speak to that person, they're a director, or this person. No, they're a human. Go and speak to them. And I just think everything you said is hard explanation.
How do we balance the need for financial stability with the desire for a change in work?
I think it's important for you to assess what your risk tolerance level is, and it doesn't have to be an overnight thing, right? So if you're saying, I know that I want to leave and I feel like I'm probably wanting to have some time off before I secure my next role while I figure out what it is, plan for that and save for that and give yourself a runway. I think oftentimes people are like, oh, I can't not have any money. And it's like, have you got savings? Like, have you really thought about how you could do it? And I think looking at your budget and saying, what is the bare minimum that I need to have? And recognizing that, okay, maybe I won't be able to do what I normally do, but what's the bare minimum? And then how many months buffer do I need in order for me to feel comfortable to make this transition? I think that's helpful to do, so it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing everything in order for you to make the shift that you want to make. So having a buffer and building that up, I say, would be the best way to go about it.
Yeah. I think that is the biggest tension point for people in their 30s, 40s and beyond. What I wanted to do, a PE teacher drawing a purple Land Rover. I don't want a purple Land Rover.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's not my favourite colour anymore. But drawing that and thinking I wanted to be that is so far removed from what I want to be. And I just think we have to really think about where we want to go. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm 42. And that's fine. You know, we evolve, and as humans, human development is messy, and our careers should allow for that. And I do think it's that biggest tension point of how do I get to there? And I'm going to have to quit my job, and it'd be like the movies where actually practically and financially that might not be the case. You might not be doing that. So I think you're absolutely right. I think you've got to really sit down and reflect on, can I upskill during my current job? Can I look at alternative wage, side hustles, all of these different things to do what I need to do?
Yeah. And I think with that, you're building a bridge sometimes. So if you've decided, actually, I don't want to do what I'm doing now, I want to do something else, there may be opportunity within your organisation to shift so that you can start building up that experience that you need now to go and do the next thing. Or you might take another role that is not the final role that you want to do, but it's a bridge opportunity that's going to get you there. So I think you kind of got to be like, okay, where am I going and how can I be strategic about it? It isn't a black and white, I'm here today, I'm gone tomorrow, I don't have any money. There's lots of different ways for you to approach it. So I think it is the question that I like to tell people to ponder on is not like, can I make it happen? It's how. Can I? And if you just introduce the how, it allows your brain to start firing in different ways to kind of come up with an answer to that. How can I make it happen? Don't just say, oh, I can't. Yeah, you probably can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I really, really agree. Do you think the linear career path stops people, or the idea of wanting that linear career path, do you think that it stops people from reaching their full and true potential?
Yeah, as I said, humans are messy, and I think we often get, and the ladder isn't wrong, but when you're on a ladder, it's predictable performance, so you naturally go through the promotions and all of that, but potential is infinite. So the ladder's not wrong, but there are other ladders, and there's other ways of climbing ladders. And as we evolve, and I don't want the purple Land Rover, I don't want to be a PE teacher, you're not a lawyer, that's fine. And we're navigating a different ladder. It doesn't mean we're any less than, we're just doing it differently. And I think we should champion that and have that diversity in teams. Yeah.
And I don't think the ladder takes into account the broader picture of your life.
No.
The ladder is very much like your career path,
yeah.
But I very much believe in work-life integration, like you're one person. So if you have a child or you go through a significant loss or you experience something crazy in your health, the way that you view the world and you think about things and your priorities are going to shift.
Yeah.
So if you made a decision before all of those things have happened to you, your perspective on getting to the top of the ladder is going to be different. So I think there has to be room for people to say, like, yes, that's my goal now. However, as life shifts, I'm going to shift and I can reset and I can jump onto a different ladder or I can go in a different direction. We have agency, but often people feel like, well, I made a decision way back when and I have to stick to my decision. And if I don't, I'm a quitter and I'm not a quitter. And it's like, no, you just changed your mind and that's okay.
Do you think you've got more drive? I'm sorry, I'm asking questions
now.
Do you think you've got more drive now having had children than before?
100%.
Yeah.
But in a different way.
Yeah.
Before, my drive was very much like, I've made the decision, I'm going to do it. Post children, I realised that I can do whatever.
Yeah.
Because I literally like grew a human in my body.
Yes.
And birthed them twice. So you cannot tell me that I can't change jobs. You cannot tell me that I can't do, like, there's this level of like, I can, so I will, that I didn't have before. Like before it was very much, okay, they told me I need to be a lawyer, so I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And now, what do I do? Looking to everyone else. And now I'm just like, I've got kids. Like,
I can relate. My wife birthed our 2 children, so I can't relate to that. I was there in the room, so I can see it now. But I'd absolutely relate. And mine is the growing up in a socially deprived area and having that life. I want to give my children what I feel was missing in me, and that emotional security, stability, all of those things. It's a massive passion of mine, and I want to give, I'm so driven that they can see. So when Louis and Luna say to me, what's the working mindset? And they have, I tell them what it is, and they're so proud because we're talking about emotions.
Yes.
And and that's my drive, is to just be so open with them. So yeah, so I've gone off on a tangent, Jordan.
Honestly, I was like, I really do not mind for listeners at all. It was really, really good stuff. So we've talked a lot about the ladder and squiggly careers and making moves when it's right and when it's not. Something I do want to bring up is we're from the recruitment game, right? You know, there used to be a time where having gaps in your CV or having like little bits and blocks of things that were sort of maybe irregular was frowned upon. Mm-hmm. Do we think that that is still the case in some areas? Or sort of how could we, if we were in an interview, for example, how could we talk through our journey?
Yeah. I think gone are the days where people would go into a role and stay with a company for like 10, 15 years. People move around every few years, and that's okay now. Yeah. I think when it comes to your CV, everything comes down to positioning. Like you can have one opportunity or one role that you've had, and there's so many different angles that you can use to describe it.
Yeah.
So I think if you're really clear on what is the role that I'm going for, and then you're able to look at your experience and say, how is what I have done relevant to them?
Yeah.
How can I add value? And if you lead with your career story in a way where it's like they're interested in you because of what they do, and they can see how what you've done makes sense, then I think you can explain anything away, whether there's gaps or there's some random thing that you did. There's always a reason for everything. So I think people just need to approach it like, I'm telling a story, and I'm telling a story in a way that's relevant to the listener.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's it. There is ways that you can dress things up, I think. And what you said is great, like is perfect. No, I do think gone are the days where people want to get in the organisation and work their way up to CEO, you know, but I mean, there's no problem with that if you want to do that, but I just don't think there is that real need anymore, you know. And something that is thrown about is that jack of all trades but master of none. I think it's fine to be a master of a few, you know. We need to like stay ahead of the game. AI is definitely coming for our jobs. We need to get like ahead of that. We need to be SME in a couple of things, I think, and I think that those sorts of things help demonstrate your career journey. Did that make sense in a nutshell?
Yeah, absolutely.
You move with the times, don't you?
So
100%. You stay current and you stay employable, and that's what matters. And I think a good recruiter will lean into conversations with curiosity, and when in an interview, like you were talking about, own it and work on your personal brand. Is there a golden thread through your CV that tells me a story on people management, purpose, connection, all of these different things? Is that what you're looking for? And then do you know that's what you're looking for, which is a self-awareness thing, so you can stand by your convictions. So then we know as a recruiter it's not a reactive move, it's an intentional move, and I'm here because of this and this. And that's the difference, I think, and I think a good recruiter will pick up on that.
100%. That's when I'm helping clients to prepare for interviews and stuff, I always say to them, you've got to be sold on you before you can sell anyone else on you. 100%. And oftentimes people approach it like, what should I say, or what do they want me to say? I'm like, well, what are you saying? Like, what are you actually wanting to say?
Simple as backing yourself, isn't it? You know, like, come on.
Yeah.
Last question. because we were really tight for time. That was a really beautiful discussion. And what I want to leave our listeners with is just a bit of a scenario. So I am coming to you, Shelly. I'm going to come to you as our early careers specialist in the room. I'm coming to you at 25 and I have worked for a couple of years in PwC, right? I'm moving up through the associates, but I hate it. What advice are you going to give to me as someone who probably wants to change their career?
I'm going to say age is your asset. So whether you're starting off early in your career or from lived experience, age is your asset. And reflect, think about what you want out of your life and how you want to get there, and flip and reverse it. Just flip your thoughts.
Great. I love that. Janine, I'm coming to you. I'm 45. I've got 4 kids at home. Bills need paid, right? I really have decided.
Feel for you.
Yeah, my God, honestly, could not be me, right? I'm just really
describing me and you.
Double the amount of kids though.
So I'm 45. I've really lost a desire to work. I just need something new. You know, I've dreading going into work on Monday and I'm bringing it home in the evening. What advice would you give to me?
My advice to you would be why. What is it about work that is driving you crazy? And then I would have you identify, are there some things that you can do right now to make things better? Because often it's not just about work. When you've got 4 kids at home and all the stuff, everything feels crazy. So right now I would ask you to connect with doing something that you enjoy and noticing where there's maybe opportunities at work to get involved in a project or something different, just so you can calm some of the frustration so that you can be in a place to make a considered decision moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Love that.
Pleasure.
Where can our listeners catch up with you both?
For me, it would be LinkedIn, Janine Esbrand on LinkedIn. You can also check out the Career Changemaker podcast on all the podcast platforms and the website, careerchangemakers.com.
You're both professional podcasters, so you can catch me on LinkedIn at Shelly Larsen-McHugh.
Love that. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much, Janine and Shelly, for joining me today. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And to our listeners, if you're looking for a new role, why not check out Brook Street online? There may just be a dream job waiting there for you. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague and listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you and see you later.
Yay.
That was lovely.
That was good.
I was
really
excited about the fact that you finished like
I
right
know,
on time.
I know,
you were right. As it was